Josh.
Hello. That was British. I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry. Hello, Camden. You can cut that when we edit,
Nope, probably won't.
please. Thanks. How you doing? I'm in a weird mood this evening. I can just feel it.
How come?
Are you here for it? I don't know.
All right, yeah. Yeah, give us
I don't know
something,
why.
some good content.
I'm just kind of like my brain's a little all over the place. Earlier, before we started recording, I was like, I'm just gonna like shut my eyes on the sofa for like 15 minutes. And I did. Didn't really sleep, but I had a weird thought. And I want you to tell me if like it's a dumb thought or not.
Okay,
But
probably is. Just kidding.
team sports fandom is not really like a team fandom, it's a brand fandom because the team is never the same.
I think that's accurate. I mean, I think you can have elements of both. There are people who really love the 98 like squad, like they have an affinity, especially
Sure.
for a team, but like, yeah, your
But if
loyalty
you're like,
to
oh yeah, like the Dallas Stars are my hockey team, like they're my
yeah,
team, but it's like I'm a fan of that brand, but there's also a geographical hook to
maybe
it.
geological.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
No, yeah, I get you. Yeah.
Geographical hook.
You remember
Yeah.
we talked about that. We talked about with Startup Ignition. We worked with them and talked about how there are players on the team make up the team's brand, and also the team's brand give power to the player's brand. Like it goes both ways. And
It's true.
team sports is an example. Like yeah, like the if you have really good personal brands or strong, even if it's not necessarily good, strong personal brands of players on a team, that contributes to that team's brand a little bit, especially if they have a certain type of player, a certain type of personality or style or something over the years, and then vice versa. You join a team, you kind of take on that brand a little bit. And yeah, I would say that's a good, fair observation, even
Hmm.
from someone who likes hockey. Surprisingly,
It's a great sport. Great sport.
no, that's a good example of a team sport, though, right? It's you got to really be like a play as a team in that sport. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, not that they're. Wait, what? What are you saying?
I'm saying of all team sports, hockey is especially like a team sport. Like some sports, one player can kind of dominate a little bit more, and like I feel like hockey is one in which you really have to rely on your. Anyways, I got off brand. I'm talking about sports now. Sorry, but
Oh, sure. I'm gonna disagree though. I think like there are some players that have their own brands and can kind of run games if they want to. There aren't as many of them, but
hmm,
like Alex Ovechkin, like
I
that
think I've heard
dude's
that name before. I don't like hockey, so I guess maybe
he's
he's a real star. Yeah,
like
yeah.
second to Wayne Gretzky in all time scoring and still playing. Like, yeah, the
I think
dude's
that's the second player I know. Name a third player. See if I know
kind
him.
of legit. Um, let's see, Mike Modano.
Nope.
Oh, he
You
was
just
one of
probably
my
made that
favorites
up.
growing up. Joe Sakic, Patrick Waugh. Those are all old guys from Colorado.
Sorry.
Um, Mario Lemieux. Jeez. Okay, we got to get you educated.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Is that the end of that thought about just your random team
Yeah, it
sport
was
brand
just kind
thought?
of like
Cool.
like a shower thought,
Yeah.
but
So
it was a nap thought.
so can you apply? There's something about team sports that because there are not as many brands like business brands that have a fandom the way that team sports do. There,
True.
what drives the passion of a team sport? Competition, because businesses are competitive. Is it action, like physical action that you can watch? Like I don't. What is why do team sports have such a
I
fandom
mean,
when people aren't like Walmart? Some people are, but stay up late to watch their stock price and like
I don't know. I mean, like a good chunk of the U.S. population grows up playing sports. Like we kind of it's part of the larger culture, whereas like we don't grow up creating companies.
Most of us don't.
Most of us
I
don't.
feel a little bit like I'm not going to claim that I'm a fan of any brand the way I have been about sports teams, but being in this industry, I kind of a little bit sometimes feel like I root for certain brands besides just like not because like I'm invested in them or anything, but just like because of the brand, like the team, I a little bit root for them sometimes. But
Yeah, I probably pay attention to it more than I used to. Like I like shoes, but I'm not like all in on Nikes or Reeboks or
you
whatever.
hate certain brand. You're a hater of Apple, like they're the opposing team.
They're
You,
a good brand, but I'm not a fan.
we're never gonna get
That
Apple to
makes
sponsor
sense.
us at this rate, and they were asking about it.
They were. Okay, so shower thoughts continued. Nap thoughts continued. I've been having a bit of like an existential crisis.
Okay,
Not really a crisis, but like for like the solid last like 6 months at least, I've been thinking a lot about the universe and the planet. I clearly like earth sciences. Like I've always been interested in that kind of crap. It's not crap, it's cool. And like we don't there's no need to get spiritual here. That's not what this channel's about, because I mean the questions of like existence go there. But like with all the James Webb telescope stuff, it's mind blowing to me, and like I love it, and I spend way too much time watching videos on YouTube about the universe and existence. There's a great documentary, I think it was on Netflix, that I watched that was like about infinity and like the math and the numbers behind that concept. Really cool. So all that just leads you to like, what are we doing here? Like, what? And I think about this way too much right now, way too much. But it also has me thinking about kind of like the biggest question that drives everything and drives what we do and brands. It goes all the way down to even the littlest things. It's just the question of why. Why why do we do what we do? Why are we here? Why does the universe exist? We don't need to go that big, but like,
Josh, I can send some guys to your house that I know if you want to.
no, 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 no. But but why? Why? Why are we doing this show? Why does capitalism exist? Why do brands need to have a brand? What is a brand's why? Do brands need a why? It just anyway.
Some of those answers I feel more prepared to answer, or some of those questions I feel more prepared to answer than others. Are you asking them all to me, or are you just thinking out loud?
I'm just thinking out loud.
No, it's good. No, that's those are good thoughts to be having, and they connect to each other in some ways, and they can spring up their own thought explorations, whatever. But yeah, that I think not necessarily to that scale do you have to always ask those questions to be good at branding and marketing, but I think the best.
Yes, you do.
I
You
mean,
always have to start with scale.
I mean, the universe is we. That's fine, but eventually you're gonna yeah. We the purpose of I remember so my major was in psychology. I actually didn't go to school for marketing. Well, by the end I was basically studying marketing, but my degree is in psychology. And something that I learned pretty quickly in psychology is that you have to basically decide for yourself how how you're going to define the answers to those kinds of questions, because there are different types of um causes, I think is the word. Like there's now I'm gonna make my professors mad because I need to remember the exact textbook definitions. I need to go back.
I'm gonna send
But
them the
basically
link.
there's like basically so I'm not probably gonna use the right words. Someone can can enlighten me again in the comments. But basically, there's like explanations based on how things are made, like causal truth, or causal or material causes. Like the way something's constructed leads that to happen. Like the way the electron fires makes something happen. There is
Okay.
structural reasons, like this person, because of the family they were in and the way that their dynamics led to them being this way. There is um,
Like a chain of events. There's a once one thing causes something else to happen. That's the why.
I think that's even another. I
That's
think it's
kind
even
of like
another definition is like the temporal cause, which is like time based. Like this led to the like domino effect. Anyways, you got me on this weird tangent now because you're thinking big, but basically, like you have to kind of decide how to interpret cause and effect because there's different ways to. There's more than one cause that could be to the effect, right? And so, and in psychology, the way we're not talking about this in a psychology podcast necessarily, although it kind of is. Um,
yeah.
in counseling people, in helping people through therapy or overcome difficulties or things like that, you have to kind of pick subscribe to a certain um, theory or philosophy of psychology and just kind of run with that, the one that makes the most sense for you, because there's no discipline or area of psychology, or not, I shouldn't say area, but like there's different types of psychology. There's humanistic psychology, there's cognitive behavioral psychology, there is purely behavioral, there's psychoanalytics, that like Freud stuff. There's different ways you can approach
Sure.
psychology, and some of those different, the reason those all exist is because they answer some questions or show evidence of them being right better than other ones in some areas, but they also fall short in some areas that this other theory seems to answer better. And so there's no like one. What I'm saying is that I learned in my studies, there's no like one like this is psychology, this is the truth. It's all about, well, evidence suggests this, and this study suggested this, and we have kind of baseline what we recommend as most things point to, but there's no explanation that works in every situation. And so you have to kind of decide. Anyways, I don't know. That's not like an
So
answer
you're
to you.
saying there's no hope? I'll never
There's
understand
hope.
why.
There's hope unless you decide that you need to know an absolute empirical answer to every one of those questions right now. Then yeah, I guess I can't promise that will happen, but
Well, not right now. I'm not expecting you to tell me the meaning of life right now. But
42,
I say what? 22?
42, 42.
42. 42.
42.
42?
Yes, yes, I thought it over quite thoroughly. It is, it's 42.
I thought it was 23.
Alexa, what's the meaning of life?
Eleanor Roosevelt said, "The purpose of life is to live it, to taste experience to the utmost, to reach out eagerly and without fear for newer and richer experience."
Apparently, Eleanor Roosevelt is the arbiter of what the meaning of life is.
Okay. Maybe her ghosts can come visit and explain it to us.
Hey, let's not invite that.
Anyway, that's just been where my head's at. And I know it's important down to everything that we do, not just like these huge existential questions. It also like the answer to the why should be driving everything we do in our personal lives. There should be a why for what we do, I would imagine. But then there's also every business exists for some person or some person. Whoa. Every business exists for some reason. It's solving a problem for others, and then people pay that company to solve the problem for them. And sometimes that's products, sometimes that's services. And that's kind of like a little bit of a why. But then you got to think about the founders of the companies and why they did what they did. And I know everybody's favorite TED talker, Simon Sinek, has a great talk about
Everyone's
starting with
favorite?
why.
Is he your favorite?
Dude, I think the first time I encountered him, he really pissed me off. He triggered something hard in me, and I just like I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. And so now, even when I am like forced to agree with him, like it hurts a little.
I like the principle. I know what you're talking about. I'm sure most listeners, all 5 of our listeners probably have heard of that too. But they,
If you haven't, go watch it.
yeah, go watch it.
And what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief?
It is referred to a lot, and even people who aren't who come to like agencies or businesses for marketing help have heard about that a lot. My only problem, I don't have a problem with the principle he shares in that. I think it's true. I think it's good. I think it's helpful to identify that. I've tried to help brands in the past identify that for themselves. The only problem with his talk that makes it seem so simple is he's giving examples that are pointing retroactively, like hindsight's 2020. Like he uses Apple as an example, that have established and kind of shown what their why is and run like campaigns around it. It's easier to point to those than to have, hey, I'm in a startup that's been in business a year and a half, and I finally got some funding or some marketing dollars, and I want to expand and grow. I don't know what my brand is yet. Like, what's my why? And I'm not saying you can't answer the question. I think it's still worthwhile to at that point identify that. It's just not quite that simple. Like, yeah, I'll start with why. Like, and I guess I shouldn't trash on him because he didn't necessarily say it's simple, but sometimes I guess what I'm saying is sometimes it's okay to not know what your why is yet, or your why might change and develop. You can't point to Apple's most successful campaign and look, that's their why. Like, did they sit in a room and say, guys, what's our why? It's to think differently. And then that ad campaign came out. I don't think so. I think they had a good ad campaign and they were like, yeah, that's who we are. And that's my only concern with it is it's nice to give a TED talk in hindsight, pointing at someone's why when it probably finding. I don't think Apple started with why is what I'm saying. Maybe Steve Jobs did a little bit.
Maybe, but did he foresee when he was building computers in a garage? Did he foresee the iPhone? Like, maybe there's some evidence of that. I don't know. But like, I'm not a big Steve Jobs like history nerd. I couldn't tell you, but
I think he talked about having a computer in every home and like something that would be part of your everyday life. But is that the why, or is that the what? Why did he want a computer in every home? To make money, or is there a social purpose behind, like a drive? I don't know.
Yeah.
You're talking about inviting ghosts. Maybe we can have him on next week and ask him.
That'd be awesome.
But yeah, start with why. It's a good principle. It's a good because the thing about identifying your why is it doesn't have to be and often won't be a public facing message. I mean, it can be, like, you can build a campaign that kind of touches on it, but the best thing that I've seen it used for with brands is being a like a measuring stick for knowing if something's on brand or not. If you're moving in a new direction, a new market, opening a new product line, or a marketing messaging type of effort, if it's not tying back to that why or supporting that why in some way, then it's probably not on brand. If you've done a good job and really bought into your why. If it is, then you can say, as difficult as this might be, or as shocking as it might be, or as whatever, it's worthwhile, assuming you don't bankrupt yourself in doing it, because it's supportive of your why, and that's going to be on brand. But again, that's my only holdup is there are probably things that are good for your business and brand to do that you can help figure out your why as you go, that you shouldn't have like analysis paralysis and sit there and be like, I don't know my why, therefore I can't market anything. Like, go and do stuff and try stuff and think about it and interview and lay in bed at night and like figure out your why as you go. But to the degree you can help hone in on it and clarify it and build around it, that's always going to be good. And I agree with Simon on that. I want to play devil's advocate and challenge something you said. You said every business does something for somebody, serves a purpose or something, and we pay them for it. Does that apply to every business? Like, what is the IRS's why?
That's not a business.
It's someone's brand.
It's a governmental agency.
But
you could argue that they
brand?
exist to collect the taxes that citizens owe in order to fund public services.
People don't have a choice, though. People don't come to them because of their why. They don't have a choice.
That's not a company, though.
But
so you can't.
Isn't it a brand?
But it is a brand. I guess it's a brand. if you can call Internal Revenue Service a brand name. I mean, it's become that.
So
But
could they change their brand? Could they rebrand themselves? That's a project I want.
ooh, let's do it. That would be a fun exercise. Oh, the hate we would get for trying to rebrand the IRS. I like it.
Without changing the function at all, just rebrand it. It's hard, but think about this: if someone could get somehow, you can't guarantee stuff. But you say IRS people, I can guarantee you that will improve your brand image. You will have a 45% increase in like citizen sentiment or score, whatever. How much money would the IRS, which would be my money that they're using to pay for it, but how much money would the IRS be willing to pay for a successful rebrand?
I don't know. How much could we get Congress to set aside for it? I think you and I could get it done for a couple million.
I'd accept that. I'll do a little bit of, yeah, I would take it for that much, I guess.
We could even set aside a quarter of that for advertising.
The IRS should have a podcast and YouTube channel. Let us into that world. And it's like they have a lottery where like your listeners, like once a year, like you get like all your taxes given back or something. Like you don't owe taxes that year.
Oh yeah,
that's part of
it. Could be based on like a quiz from all the content they've posted, so you have to pay attention. Yeah. Or
like it's also incentive to like file your taxes. Like one lucky tax filer gets something. It's like entering a drawing.
The 1 millionth tax filer.
Yeah.
Okay.
We talked about the why of the universe, rebranding the IRS, and Simon Sinek. It's a good, well-rounded conversation so far.
Yeah. Okay. So back to the why, though. I'm going to challenge something else that I said, or I implied, and I don't think it should be implied. That I don't necessarily think that like a brand's why has to come from the founders necessarily. It could be that the founders have a vision for a product, they do it, and like you said, the why kind of shows up as they start doing things and as they build their brand, and then they lean into it, and then that's what they own.
And a why doesn't have to always be some big, like righteous, heavy thing. Like it can be something like lighthearted, or you're feeling a belief that something like the people need to laugh more or something. That could be your why, or having. I'm not gonna try to make up any whys on the spot. It's just gonna get weird. But like, it doesn't have to necessarily be some greater good mission. Those are fine. I'm not saying you can have that, but I think people, when they think like why, they kind of start when they ask that question, they think it has to be some big existential type of answer. And great if you have one, but don't make one up to try to sound good. It has to be legitimate. It has to actually be why do you do what you do? Like what's the point of getting up and running this business every day or doing? And it's not something that the lower level like employees necessarily. They should, to the idea that they buy into it. That's great, but they are not necessarily always the ones who are driving that, because you have to be invested in the progress. You have to be running that brand, not just clocking in and leaving, right? Like it has to be like, I don't think a McDonald's worker, 16-year-old flipping hamburgers, which is nothing wrong with that. I don't think they're really worrying about McDonald's why, the way that like the board and the leadership is. But Chick-fil-A though.
$12.99. My plates were served. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank.
Yeah, that's exactly where my head was going. They find a way to infuse that.
I just read the book by the former CMO called Covert Cows and Chick-fil-A, and it's the story of, at least from his experience from when he started and until he left, of that brand. It's interesting to see behind those curtains. That could be an episode. But Chick-fil-A is an interesting case study. Yeah, now you got me thinking. Existential thoughts here.
So, okay, I know this is something you do on a regular basis, and it's something I'm going to have to start helping my companies do a little bit more.
Bathing. Oh, that's not what it was?
No.
All right.
Do you do that often?
Pretty often.
Good for you.
Thanks. Side note, I've been worried actually, and you don't tell me because I'll be embarrassed if you've ever. I've worried that I probably have bad breath. Like, so I'm exposing myself here on this channel. I don't always brush my teeth in the morning. I always brush at night. I don't always brush in the morning. I floss good. I don't have a lot of cavities. I don't brush in the morning all the time. I know like you're supposed to, but I'm in a rush. I just brushed last night. I haven't eaten since then, and I'm realizing like I wonder if like people think I have bad breath in the morning. So I haven't asked anybody, and I've been better lately. I chew gum often, anyways. But I had that like
probably helps.
I had that fear recently. I'm like I haven't really thought about that, and no one's like said anything. But do I like talk to people?
Were you, like leaning over someone's desk?
Yeah, I sorry to anybody in my past who I've blasted with morning breath. I'll be better at taking care of that.
Like, let's just assume that we have some people listening here, and they're like, okay, I am at a point where I need to start identifying my brand's why. How?
I think first of all, you need to make sure that you have the ability to, if you're the one asking the question, you better also be the person who has the ability to put something into action when you identify it. Otherwise, you need to be helping the person who does ask that question. Because like I said, if someone who's you know, a 17-year-old at McDonald's has this great revelation about the why of McDonald's, it's not going to affect McDonald's. And so,
okay, let's be realistic.
And so, here. No, that happens sometimes where someone throws so-and-so, hey, you guys work on it with the marketing. You guys are going to go help our marketing thing. And like, I'm going to focus on this. And they send somebody who doesn't have final say about things to go work with the marketing agency or the marketing department. And we're asking these questions and they're like, I've been here 6 months and I don't know if I'm going to be here a year from now. And they're not the person that really should be driving that. So
that's true. Get
the right people in the room. And then I think the first question is, it's not the only question.
Is
it's
it
not
why? Is the question?
Well, it is why, but it's to just say why period or why question mark. It's why do you do what you do? Like why at this bit? Why does the business do what it does? And their answer, usually the first answer, is not going to be the why yet because it doesn't actually get to the core. They're going to like answer that question, and you can say, well, but why that? But why that? And you get to a place where you're like, oh yeah, that's the why. It's kind of peeling back layers.
Basically have to be that annoying 5-year-old that asks why 10 times in a row.
Yeah, I try to not
get down to the meat of it.
Yeah, I try to add some other words around the word why just so it sounds like a different question, but it's pretty much asking why over and over again. But at the same time, you also need to know when to stop because you could type like a 5-year-old, you could just say why forever, and then you're asking about the universe and stuff again, like you were. And so there's a point where you're like, that's something I can build around. That's enough of a drive. That's something that resonates with people. That seems like the why. Because yeah, why is one of those questions you can literally always ask and it never ends. And so you gotta stop somewhere, but only when it feels like you've reached a place that feels good, which is an ambiguous, weird thing. It's a non-tangible thing to identify, but like that feels right.
Yeah, that's almost as uncomfortable for me as not knowing why. Is like not knowing where to stop.
I actually
that's definitely something I struggle with just like in general. I tend to overthink everything, and like I've wanted to buy a new car for 2 years now, but I keep looking because there could be something else, and I will look until I don't buy a new car, and I just won't.
Well, this is a little bit different than what you this isn't exactly what you just said. It's not about having endless like whys, but it made me think of it. A brand you don't really create your own brand. You can try to influence it the best you can, but like your brand exists. You have 1 million plus different brands depending on how many people are aware of you, right? They have a slightly different opinion and view and perception toward you than the next person. And so branding is trying your best to influence those perceptions enough that they're unified roughly around the same kind of thing and try to bring them together to have some unity. But you're never going to have one exact brand that this is our brand. Well, so that's what you're trying to make your brand to be. And so what the why statement as well is, you're never going to, even if you have that why, one, it's not going to be the only reason you do what you do, and it's not going to be the reason what you do every single day forever. It's probably going to adapt and change a little bit about a time, and you're going to do things for persona or target A different than what you're doing for target B. There's different needs being met probably, but your why is what you're trying to identify in general. What's the all-encompassing, what's the thing that captures why I do everything that I do, and that's why I can't get too specific. And so anyways, all I'm saying is, you could go on and always ask why and try to pinpoint more and more and more. You could also try to constantly refine and force your brand on the public, but you're never going to have complete control over it. And even when you identify your why and feel good about it, it's not truly absolutely a complete explanation of your why, because there's different ways to interpret that and at different times and seasons of your life and the company's life. And we're getting very existential on this episode now, but
No, this is good though, because that leads me to another thing that I've been thinking about, because I've been trying to write more ad copy and stuff than I have in a long time, and I was reminded of a key copywriting point, is that when you're writing as a brand in an ad or something, it's better to talk with your audience as like the message point, or like the reference for the statement that you're making, more than the brand itself. So it's not like we write the best ads. It's like, this is what you're going to get from us, kind of like making them the subject of the advertisement, if that makes sense. I'm doing a really poor job of explaining this, but to tie that into what you were saying, because you can't always control your own brand, and that your audience is going to have a perception of that brand, there are probably instances where a public perception of your brand needs to be leaned into, especially if it's a positive one, and you can adapt that into your why. You have started to fulfill something for a group of people that maybe you didn't intend to initially, but it's become this thing, and you can lean into that, and that could be part of your why.
Mm-hmm.
And that might mean more than you trying to force something on them.
Yeah.
If it's positive. If it's negative, obviously you're in trouble. But
yeah. No, I think you explained that decently well. It's like an application of an example would be like, if you make air conditioning units or something, you could write ad copy talking about how low the temperature can get or how much power it uses or things like that, and you might refer to some of that. But instead of saying, hey, we can get it down to X degrees in this many minutes or whatever, you write copy that says, you can sleep comfortably at night, no matter the time of year. That's like, you understand the brand benefit. And maybe the why is people deserve to feel at home when they're at home, or to feel comfortable when they're at home. I'm just making that up on the spot, but something like that. That's the why behind it. And your messaging. It's time for a new campaign, and marketing team A is thinking, okay, these are all of our amazing features and benefits and price points. Let's write an ad campaign about this. And marketing team B is thinking, why do we do this? Why are we writing a campaign right now? Because people deserve to feel comfortable at their home. That ad copy is going to become more, it's going to resonate more, reach people more, persuade them more. And not in a shady, like, I'm trying to get you salesy way, like in an actual, here's how we want to provide value for you, better than group number or group letter A. And so, again, easier said than done with these imaginary examples I'm talking about, but that's the principle, right? Is you can be on brand better by identifying why you do what you do.
yes. So, what have we learned today, Camden?
I need to keep an eye out for you because you're having some existential crisis, but you'll be fine.
I'll be fine.
And honestly, we learned about is like the value of why, of asking why. But really what I'm kind of taking from this is that we in this industry, and I guess anybody in any industry who has a brand, which is everybody's company, right? Keep working at these things. I like doing this. I feel like I have some value I can offer clients and things like that. It's worthwhile to have people help you. But also don't get too hung up trying to find the right answer, because it can be a little bit subjective and relative, and it can change. And I know that, like, you talked about that stresses you out. Like, no, I want to find, like, what's the answer? And I do too. I love the chasing of that, even if I haven't caught it yet. And so I guess what I'm taking from this, which is maybe something we said directly, but an indirect message, is things like asking for or asking about your why and trying to dive into that. Like, even if you don't fully understand it yet, and you're like, I still don't know what my why is, having that conversation and thinking about that with your organization, your marketing team, whatever, you're going to be in a better place and have a better understanding, even if you haven't quite, stamped and framed your why statement and have it exactly laid out. You're going to be asking the right questions and moving in the right direction. Is a brand ever done developing? Is it ever there? No, they're always adapting, and your why might have to change down the road. It's an infinite game. There's no end.
So brands are like humans, always growing, always developing. We will be better humans if we determine some why for our existence rather than being completely nihilistic. And
yeah, and just like people, I think a lot of brands maybe don't even have a why yet. Like the quest for asking why do we do what we do makes them maybe decide, we haven't really had a reason, but now I think I want to do it for this reason, and they kind of build around that. Same with people. You might be like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Maybe you're going through the motions, and you can identify what your purpose is, what your why is. And anyways, yeah.
Thank you, Camden. I feel like I've been taken to church.
Why?
And I'm ready. Let's do it.
Good.
I still don't know any answers, but the why it's just a beautiful thing.
This episode's been the why. Like, why do you need a why statement? Why do you need to ask why? But
Why?
This has been sort of on brand for us.
Yes.
Kind of not on brand, but sort of on brand. That's why we named it this.
That's why.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. That calls for the echo feature on my microphone. That's why.
Okay. Who's our sponsor this week? I know it's not Apple because I screwed that up.
Our sponsor this week actually reached out to me after we mentioned them a few episodes back. They caught wind of it, and it's actually it is Great Value. Great Value, the Walmart brand. They said, you know what, you're right. We don't position ourselves that much. We just kind of put it on the shelves and don't do a lot of advertising. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. We wanted to do some sponsorship for our episode here and say Great Value is a great option. I just watched a video on, I think it was an Instagram Reel, where someone did a taste test of name brand candy bars versus Great Value candy bars, like the Great Value version of the same one. And she said Great Value was better for cheaper. So go check out Great Value, try their candy bars and all their other products. And
okay, I'm sold.
Thanks for sponsoring Great Value, Walmart. Okay.
All right. Well, I'll see you on the other side of the universe.
See ya.